All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Excited to be with you today and spend the next 59 minutes telling you guys all about a really great opportunity that we have through a couple of tremendous partnerships. So without further ado, we'll get started. So I'm Mike Brew. I'm the Director of Revenue and Customer Operations at Advance Partners. This is an Advance Partners client exclusive webinar today. So really looking forward to spending some time with you guys and educating you on this partnership. As many of you know, we are owned by Paychex, and as a result of that, one of the many benefits is, from time to time we get introduced to some enterprise level partnerships that Paychex has established. And Findem, who you'll hear from one of the team members today on this demo, is one of those partners that Paychex has brought to the table. So as we started to learn about Findem and the opportunity that existed, we realized pretty quickly that this could be a really huge opportunity for Advanced Partners and our client base, which you'll see exactly why, momentarily. So really excited to spend time with you today. Before I introduce our guest speaker, John, I'm going to kick it over to Erica Throckmorton on our team for some housekeeping items, and then back to me for the introduction, and we'll get going. Erica?
Thanks, Mike, and welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. A few housekeeping before we get started. First off, this webinar is being recorded, and you should all receive a link of the recording via a post-event email. We will be holding Q&A at the conclusion of the webinar, so if you have questions for our speaker, please submit them using the Ask a Question widget located in your console. A survey will launch at the conclusion of the event. We hope you'll take just a minute to complete it. We appreciate any feedback you have, as it will help us to fine-tune these events for the future. And lastly, if you experience any technical issues, please use the help widget shaped like a question mark located in your console. Back to you, Mike.
All right, thank you, Erica. So again, as I mentioned, want to introduce a phenomenal partner in John Phillips. John is the Vice President and General Manager at Findem. Over 20 years of experience leading HR and talent teams, as well as building HR and talent acquisition products. He's held executive leadership roles at companies like Indeed, Amazon, Starbucks, and Microsoft, and is very passionate about transforming how companies find and engage top talent. His unique perspective as both a practitioner and product builder stems from his early career as an agency recruiter and his leadership experience managing some of the world's highest volume staffing solutions at Amazon, where he facilitated the hiring of millions across 28 countries, encompassing both full-time and temporary staffing solutions. I've had the great opportunity to spend quite a bit of time with John and his team. The one thing that impresses me the most is he has a very unique understanding of our world on the staffing side. So I couldn't be more excited to introduce him to you now. And John, with that, floor is yours. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for the introduction. I'm thrilled to be with you guys today and excited to share a little bit about Findem, kind of what it is and kind of what it can do for you. And we'll spend most of our time just giving a quick overview of who Findem is and a little bit about kind of the background of Findem. And then we'll actually just get into a demo and show you the tool. And then we'll open it up for some questions at the end. So Findem is a data company that has applied its data to solving connection of people. We believe a couple really core things, which is one is that a resume and the keywords on a resume don't represent people effectively, and that AI-powered workflows are only as good as the data they sit on. And so we founded this company with a premise of actually through our founders are both data engineers. And so we approached it on having a real unique data set that is clean and reliable in a way that talent searchers can find and identify talent faster and more accurately, and that are a better expression of the actual people that they are versus just what keywords are on a resume. A little bit about kind of who we are, a startup. We've been named actually just recently as the fastest growing AI startup in the Silicon Valley, which is a pretty significant thing for us, but we've also been named one of the most innovative companies. And so hopefully what you'll see today as we walk through is a real unique way that we can kind of help organizations find talent faster. And that would include kind of when you're brokering talent on behalf of other people. The thing that we know is true around the staffing problem is that obviously point sourcing solutions are, there's so many places that people have to source from. The cost of sourcing is extreme, both from a labor perspective, plus a posting and an advertising and a database perspective. And we know that those sourcing costs are only going to get more and more expensive. And there's a problem in kind of the way that sourcing is happening, which is just getting more and more fragmented. We also know that the cost of actually doing that sourcing and the cost of and just the labor in the staffing space is such a massive driver to the performance of the business. And we know that there's this AI strategy that is out there, but as I just described a second ago, we know that AI is only as good as the data it sits on, and the majority of people data is just not good enough for AI to actually give you the efficiencies and effectiveness. So there's lots of AI tools that would claim to do search, but they're doing it based on keywords, and I'll show you a little bit of why we're different than that. So our kind of root cause on why AI and why sourcing is a broken thing is the data is fragmented. There's multiple sources that have different data on different people. There's most of the data, as I described as keywords, is self-reported and unverified. There's also a reality is that resumes tend to be a horrible expression of the person and actually what they've done and how they've done it. And so we're going to use data to show a way that we can actually make that to go from unreliable to extremely reliable data, because it's based on a different set of data than what just the person's giving us. And that, as I said, anytime you put AI on top of bad data, you're going to get drastic hallucinations. What we know around connecting people and jobs is that is just unacceptable. You can't have bad data when you're putting people together in a job, because one, it's a credibility you're staffing for, but it's also the matching. It leads to false signals downstream as you get into interviews and those types of things. So the way we've tackled this, which is really unique, I would say that there's nobody that's put a data set like this together out there, is that we look at Findem's data as what we call 3D data. And 3D data is a combination of people data, company data, and time data. And so I'll show you both, I'll describe it and then I'll actually show you live why this kind of data is important. But we can take people data, and then when you start looking at over where they worked and what time they worked at that company, it starts enhancing the data into a way that you can really query off of. So for context, we would take what a resume is, about a 4 kilobyte resume, and we turn that into a 50 megabyte data on every profile. And so if you expand that into how do you do search, the more dynamic data you have on a specific search, the more you can query against and the better results you get out of the search. This is extremely unique. There's lots of companies out there that take people data, just raw people data, and put AI on top of it and call it an AI search on people or public profile data. But what you find is it's very, very elusive as far as the match quality. And so we feel like we've solved that issue. With that, you can look at things that are very, very important that that normally happen in secondary screens. So it's not only do you have a skill set on a resume, but it's maybe what experiences you've had, what career trajectories, is there verified traits that we have on you, and then what we would call contextual search, things like what is the environment we worked in. So if you worked in a startup, do we know that you worked in a startup? Unless you wrote that down in your resume on a keyword, you normally wouldn't do that. But because we have all of this company data, we can understand the environment you did it, at the stage you did it. One of my favorite examples is that if you look at a company like Uber or DoorDash or one of these companies that's been fast growing, if you look at them now, you would never assume that they're a startup, but they were a startup at one point. And so understand the context of, am I at a 50,000 person company or a 5-person company? It's all the context of time. And so we'll show you a little bit how that comes to life in search. What that's allowed us to do is put a really, really great AI assisted search tool on top of all of these channels, on all sourcing channels where candidates reside. And we can do some automated engagement. And so the AI assisted source tools that drive the efficiency in your sourcing and your connection with hiring managers you're able to do that at a much more rapid pace because of the fact that you're doing it on clean data and across all your sourcing channels. So I'm trying to shove a lot in so I can get right in the tool. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the tool. And remember, as we go and we're showing the tool, drop your questions in and we'll get to those as we go. So let me kind of introduce you to Findem as a tool. So Findem in this case is what you would log into into one of our integrated experiences. In this case, we're integrated with Greenhouse. And so in this demo environment, we think of all of our sources in this terms of jobs or projects. There's a lot of different ways you can create a project. You don't always have to have a job description, and I'll show you that. But in this case, we'd be looking across these jobs, and these are jobs directly from the ATS. And instead of doing keyword matches or searches, we'll just take this project and start running a search directly off it. So let's go ahead and take, let's start here. Before we get into the matching model, let me show you a little bit about what a profile could look like. Excuse me, what a profile would look like and kind of why that 3D data comes to life. So I'm going to go ahead and run a search. I'll actually look for one of my colleagues, one of our marketing leaders, and I'm just going to grab her profile and then show you a little bit about what the 3D data profile looks like. So in this case, I found Liv. What you'll see in this profile for Liv is you'll see that her profile is fresh, which means it's got new information and actively refreshed within 30 days, which is extremely important as we get into connecting data into a fresh data environment. You'll have some basic at-a-glance things that you can do through AI. You can ask for custom insights. But what's really powerful is this is just a typical bio that you would normally see on a profile, a public bio about where she's been. You got a little bit, I'll look at here, she was at Vacasa for a year, and just really a single line sentence about her experience there. But because we have attributed company data, we take all company data as well as all the people data across over 100,000 sources, and we start to put it together into this data set for her. So for Liv, now we can see the understanding of Findem, where she's at now. We can understand what the profile is, that it's a Series B company, it's a private organization, what's the employee count. And so we are able to attribute all of this data to Liv's profile now. If you think about what she's done previously, she's worked into private equity, different stages of when she was at the company. And then if you looked at Vacasa, if you remember, there was just a single line. Well, now we've been able to attribute into her profile that she's worked in B2B, B2C, and marketplace organizations, which kind of groups and industries she's worked in. And so all of this data across all of these companies, as well as the time, gets associated to her. So we know that she's worked at a company that's scaled from 700 employees to 1,000 employees. That's maybe not a scale that's extremely big, but if you see her time at Findem, she's gone from 20 employees to 100 employees. What does that mean from a search quality? Is it starts showing you the context of what she's done and when she's done it. And so you can start to understand and appreciate that the more data you have on Liv that we've been able to attribute, as you start running searches against her, where you're searching at what we would call attributes. So what we do is we take all of this data, we turn it into attributes, and then we run all of our searches off of these attributes to create better matching. It's a very, very unique kind of way to do these things. So I'll jump back in and run a search against one of the jobs that we have. So let's go ahead and just run it against a customer success. So what I did is I just clicked the job and I clicked Copilot. Copilot is our AI assisted search utility. What it's doing is it's going across all of the data sets, all of that 3D data sets across our entire database, the hundreds of thousands of candidates that are out there, and across all channels that we have integrated. So what it's done is it's created a search and it's ranked the top 50 candidates. You'll see that across the top here, I've got a lot of different sources that are called out. We've got our recommendations, which is our top 50 across all of these channels, but we have a number of inbound applicants. So these are people that are, because we're connected to the ATS, that are actual applicants on this job. We've got ATS candidates that are ATS candidates that were maybe on other jobs or previous jobs. We have CRM candidates in our CRM, and we have all the external sourcing across the 100,000 plus data sources we have. So what we've done is in that single source, we've searched across all these utilities. What's happening behind the scenes is all of these old ATS candidates, as an example, we've now made them fresh, updated all their data, and then connected our entire 3D data model to those profiles. So now when you search against those candidates, you not only search about what they gave you maybe years ago, but we've actually updated all that data and turned it into a fresh profile. And we've appended all of that other 3D data to them. So when you're running searches across all your channels, you're running it against our 3D data set. The reason this is so powerful, especially in an organization like staffing organizations, is that it drastically reduces the need to go and source and find and pay for new candidates because you've already got them in a system. We are also, as part of this, constantly out looking for new contact information. So a lot of our data sources are not just profile sources, but they're also data sources where we're appending phone numbers, emails, and other things. And so in some of these profiles, you'll go in and you may find 3 or 4 phone numbers because we've been able to go find different phone numbers out there for them. So what it really does is it takes that massive sourcing spend, consolidates it into one space, and it's constantly updating for you. So all of the old databases that you might have actually become fresh again. I'll jump into this and show you a little bit about kind of what we did here. So that AI search, what it did is it took that job description and it turned it into a set of criteria, looked at the job titles, looked at the locations, the seniority. I'll clear this companies out because this is basically based on my Findem profile, but you can add specific companies you want to search on. And then it has thousands and thousands of different filter types. So depending on what you type, what you have in your job description, and the company type that you're looking for, those attributes all get searched against. But I could, if I'm wanting to narrow my searches down, all of these we have lots and lots of different criteria you can narrow down. You can make them must-haves, nice to have. You can narrow the pool. But what's really powerful is these other areas that we talked about that maybe are things that no other search engine can do because they don't have this data set. We call them Findem magics. But if you think about other things that you might want to know on this, customer success manager, you might want to understand some of the things that we talked about. Have they actually worked? What kind of work have they worked into? So maybe you're looking at the startup experience and you're saying, what stage were they a part of? Have they seen that? Did they see a Series A to a Series B? Did they see multiple startup experiences? What sales management kind of early stage startup? Because it's a completely different thing when you're having to do every job as a small company and you have to be almost a general manager for everything you do than it is if you're a salesperson at a huge company where you're kind of just running your single play. So all of these filters are allowed to then go against those attributes using that company data and the people match to make it a better search. There's lots and lots of examples. If anybody that's on the webinar does software engineering recruiting, there's also places where you can look at, do they actually have, do they have the badges on Stack Overflow? How many badges do they have? They have actual code contributions, profile ratings, verified repository of code. So all of these things become things that would normally not be on a single keyword resume. And then we've made them accessible through those 3D data profiles to create the search and the narrowing down. So let me jump back. That's just kind of showing the power of kind of all the filters and the trades. I'll go back into this area and kind of look at some of these profiles. So in this case, we've got the person's profile. We looked at the connection. We now see all of the match details on where did they match and what do they match against all the full matching criteria. We believe that AI should be an assistant and not a decision maker. And so this is kind of how we've approached that, which is we're taking all of that match data and then making it transparent to you on why they matched and kind of what the ranking was. Then we have some really fun utilities where I can look at the AI assistant and ask it some specific areas. This shows a little bit about kind of, you can ask anything you want with AI around this profile. You could also ask it to send or write a hiring script for your manager around why this candidate's a good fit or things like that. So you think about the utility of AI across that huge data set, it's sometimes going to be better than what our recruiter's eyes in the fraction of time we can give this specific profile, the ability to write and consolidate that experience into a great sentence to send out to a manager around why they match. So those assistant tools create really, really fast transactions and save a lot of time and money. So inside of that, I'll go over to a couple other things. Let's just say that we looked at these 50 candidates and we saw that they were kind of all in a different stage. Some of them are maybe in your CRM, past applicants, maybe some of them are external sourced. You'll see that they might have connections with different profiles that you have. But really the speed to contact is really an important thing, obviously, in staffing. So if I wanted to say, let's take these 50 people and let's drop them into a campaign. I can create a campaign with a couple of clicks. I can either use it as an AI assisted campaign or a previous campaign that I've built. In this case, I'll create a campaign. I can add multiple steps. I can add a subject. I can look at the different kind of cold outreach I want. And so in this case, I'll kind of, I'll go back and just assign a campaign for the demo purposes, but we've got a kind of standard 4-step campaign. This campaign basically creates a mail, a specifically customized mail. It can be sent from anyone in the organization or other email addresses. So if you have hiring managers you're working with, you can also send it on behalf of that hiring manager email. That sometimes gets a higher response rate. And so those are the types of things that you can do in this tool. You can customize the different temps. As you see it automatically templated, which each mail is not the same. It's smart enough to know that if you've reached out and another person in your organization has reached out, if they've replied, then it takes them out of the next sequence. And so there's no kind of regular emails going out to them. And so this is just a quick way you could reach out and start a project. If I ran that search and ran it between that search and the, from that search to sending mail, I can do that normally within a couple minutes. I just clicked out of my demo environment on accident. Sorry about that. So let's kind of take a look at like what happens in kind of these other dashboards as well, and we can come back to any questions in the actual search utility. We have a couple other modules that we'll look at. One is Advanced Dashboard. Because we're a data company, we're able to create and people are able to curate dashboards about their teams and what's going on. In this case, we have a sourcing utilization dashboard. Talks about kind of how many times your teams are logging into the tools, how many contacts per week they're doing, by hiring channel, ATS candidates, candidate connections, who's getting the outreach, what's the validity of that outreach. You can filter it by users, time. And so because we're a massive data company, we've got BI utilities that are really unique across all those sourcing channels once we get them in there. Other dashboards, we call it Right Start Analytics, where you can actually look at specific and configure specific dashboards on the type of recruiter productivity and metrics you're looking for. We've also got the ability to look at competitor benchmarks. And so in this case, I might be looking at how do I go talk to a client or just a hiring manager around what the competitive landscape is around certain things. I can do a bunch of competitor data. I can just add different competitors. In this case, I've put Paychex and ADP in here for an example. But I'm able to look at kind of what are the gender makeups, ethnicity makeup, department makeups. What this does is it creates a high level of data accuracy to be able to go in and have the really hard conversations. So let's just say you're working on a search and somebody's wanting to search out specific competitors. You can pull those competitors up. You can show the current makeup of their organizations. What does that do from a credibility to a hiring manager or someone you're selling to? Which is it gives you an understanding of this is what you're up against. I'll show another view of that in just a second when you look at analytics, but it starts to understand that maybe there's a specific organization or competitor that has a higher amount of a higher demographic of females, and diversity is a real key sourcing. You may be able to tailor your sourcing efforts to those areas because you have this data right at a glance. So those are some of the big dashboard areas. We also have kind of CRM functionality where you can, if you turn on the CRM functionality, there's ability to do nurture campaigns where you can set up newsletters. If I want to start a new campaign, I can grab from templates or create newsletters or rolling campaigns. I can create communities, which are basically pools that you've set together. And all of those things come together and you start being able to do kind of all of your nurture and your drip campaigns, especially for areas where you're constantly hiring and you want to just turn those things on cruise control. So that's kind of the power of the basic tools. I'm going to go back into a search, and I'm going to show you a couple other aspects. I showed you how you could outreach individually. You can move them into pools. But if I get into this external sourcing, so what this is all the external profiles where we have data across the 100,000 plus sources. I have the ability to take a look at this data set in all kinds of different ways. I can look at this company view, an analytics view, and I'll show you a couple of those. So as I talked about kind of having a high level of intelligence on what's happening from a competitive standpoint when you're doing sourcing, this company view allows you to look at, for that profile that we searched on, who are the companies that have the highest number of candidates. How do I could bulk list and short list all these candidates. And so as I get into this data, it shows me a real understanding of what am I up against? Where should I go? A lot of times it'll take those attributes and searches when you narrow that search down with a hiring manager, and you're able to get it into a place where you can have a more realistic conversation that says, I'm looking for this type of trait in this type of company. I want these three companies. Well, when you run all those searches and narrow it down, and then you run these analytics, it tells you if that's real. So as we know, one of the hardest parts of recruiting and dealing with hiring managers and hiring organizations is sometimes they're asking for something that doesn't exist. And you're constantly negotiating the terms of what skills, what attributes they need, and what companies they come from. And it starts to give you a little bit more accuracy. So that was a company view. I'm gonna go ahead and switch to an analytic view. And then as we look at the analytic view, I can start looking across a lot of different pieces: gender, ethnicity, education, experience. And so when you think of those attributes, one of the things that I like about this experience one is you may run into a manager that says, I want all of these skills, which is basically what this search was run off of. The job description, the must-have criteria, you've narrowed it down. And when you get to this and you say, I want someone with 2 years experience, I want someone junior, but you've created a list of skills that are actually only available in these upper pools. What can sometimes happen is you'll say, the manager will say, I've got, you're sending me candidates that are too expensive. Well, it's actually not the candidates that are too expensive, it's the criteria that's unavailable. And so what you can do, and I've done this live with managers, is you can start to adapt and put must-have, nice-to-have skills, change the companies. And as you do that, this kind of analytics change, so you can start to hone in on what's real, like what are realistic abilities to source and select the person. So it adds a level of credibility to the search all up front, so you don't have all that wasted time downstream on sending more and more candidates in and getting them rejected because of either comp matches, skill set matches, where they're asking you for the equivalent of a skill set that's going to take, in this case, mostly 8 to 12 years experience. And then they're doing it. The other thing we can do here is start looking at location types. The reason that this is important is that you start to narrow down on, are the people where you need them to go? So I can, sorry, I'm clicking on the wrong screen. I can narrow down into the specific kind of region I'm looking at. If I want to click into California, I can go all the way down and look at specific locations. Maybe there's no relocation, and all of a sudden you're narrowed down to 5 candidates in a surrounding area around that search. And this accuracy and this ability to go it just starts to create what we know as recruiters is helping set the stage for the scarcity that is what talent is actually available for the role in the location with the skills that you're looking for. So I'm gonna pause on kind of the demo. I'm gonna maybe hopefully open it up to some Q&A. I can potentially come back into the demo if we need to, but I wanted to leave some time to ask about kind of nuances of the tool or any other things that are there. I'm not sure if we've seen any in the chat yet.
We have one, John, about ATS integration and whether or not it needs to integrate with one.
Yeah, so we have, this tool can be set up in several different designs. One is there's a kind of a tool that's unintegrated, which basically you're just taking advantage of the 100,000 sources that we have. And then we have integrations to about 12 different kind of ATSs and a couple CRMs that if we integrate there, it then takes all your data and enriches it and pulls it in. And we can send links out with all the integration kind of partners we have right now, but we're actually always adding integration partners as well. It doesn't need to be integrated to work as a great search function. And if you're in an organization that maybe doesn't have an ATS, but has other spreadsheets or big lists of candidates and things like that, upon implementation, there's times that we can do kind of a one-time upload of CV files and things like that to make it to where this tool can become that source of truth for all of your data.
Okay. One just popped in. Is this equally effective for legal recruiting?
Yeah, this we would say that you can recruit any profile in our system. Because we've pretty much got the world's profiles in here. There's not a segment that we're missing profiles. What you tend to find is each sectionality will have a little bit different response rates. Some of them respond better to phone than email, and all of those types of things. But we have candidates across the entire ecosystem, to over 250 million just in the U.S. alone. And so that's almost the population that we're of public profiles that are out there. It's over 1 billion profiles globally in the tool.
Awesome. Okay. That was it for now as far as questions. I don't know if you wanted to continue the demo or if that was all you had for this.
Yeah, well, let's give it a second if there's other questions. Maybe while we're waiting for other questions to come in, I showed a single search in this. I was trying to go for speed so we'd have time to questions. We tend to not have enough time to answer all the questions. I showed you an area where we took the job description. There's lots of ways that we can search. So there's a couple areas that I'll showcase. There's the lookalike profile. You can do it by role, which we just did kind of here, but you could also just, if you don't have that ATS integration, you can just copy a job description right in, or you can take the link from their website and drop it right in and it'll do the exact same search. So that's where unintegrated, if you don't have an ATS, but you have a job description, you can do the same thing. You can start manually, which was kind of all of those attributes, and you start putting in attributes. And then you also have the AI assisted recruit. So let me show you kind of the two that are most popular. Maybe I'll use the AI assisted recruit. Because we've got all of these attributes built, our AI assistant allows us to do really short and specific natural language search and run it against a large set of criteria about attributes. So maybe I'll say I'm looking for a certified nurse in Dallas. So just that small sample size of data, again, normally you run a search like that against just a keyword database and you're not going to get a lot of great results because it doesn't have it's just looking for keywords. When we run that search, it takes those keywords, things like certified nurse, the location, and it starts to run it against what do we know about a certified nurse, all the attributes that are part of a certified nurse in that location, and you're able to run it. What we've heard from TA leaders is that when you have recruiters that normally take a higher sophistication and you have to teach sourcing and teach a lot of search criteria, this simplifies and evens the playing field. You can have a very low cost entry level recruiter running natural language searches and getting really great results. And so in this case, we've got a list of sources. It goes across. I think in this demo environment, I don't think excuse me, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. I don't have an ATS connected where in our demo environment with nurses, but when that's not there, as you'll see, we looked across all the external sourcing. We came up with a list of nurses and the requirements, and it's just kind of that easy. If I go back to my projects, you'll see that the project now is kind of connected here, certified nurse. As we contact and shortlist candidates, all of it shows up here, and then you can edit, come back, research again. The other piece that I'll show you real quick is waiting on questions is lookalike profile. This is an extremely popular search criteria. So one of the things that we know is because job descriptions are not a great description of the job, resumes are not a great descriptor of the person. What we've done here is you can start to take 1 and up to 3 profiles and combine them in and create those profiles to be a search experience. So let's just say we had a legal question. So if we send, if you wanted to say, give me your top 3 lawyers of your firm, and we want to look for those. You enter those people into this, you tag them, and then you run the search. What it does is it takes all of their background history, experiences across company types, industries, all the things that makes them who they are and how they've done it. And then it creates that to be the search criteria. So instead of a job description with keywords that tend to be just legalese on must-haves and nice-to-haves, it actually takes high performers in the job and then turns them into a search criteria. So I'll take, I had done, used Live in the past in the demo. So I will do Live plus Findem. I'll search for her. So she comes up, and now I can create a project, which is basically that lookalike candidate. Runs that same search off of that, but what it's done is it's taken Liv's profile, experiences, and history, the types of companies she's worked at, the stages of the companies she's worked at, all of the things that make Liv uniquely Liv now come to life in a single search. And so when we get into this search, you'll start to see people that are other vice presidents of marketing, but what you'll see also is a lot of the criterias of where she's worked, how she's worked, the types of experiences she's had. She one unique thing about Liv that makes Liv Liv is she was actually started her career as a lawyer. And so you'll see that she doesn't just have the director of marketing and marketing experiences got attributed to her, but it also takes her old kind of backgrounds of legal counsel and other things. That is a extremely unique search that just got created there. So this is just a couple of ways that we can do different types of searches and different angles of that search. Because really what you're doing is just huge data that's being queried against with kind of an AI lens.
Okay. John, we got one more question that just came in.
Sure.
You want to take that now?
Yes.
When you set up a campaign to reach out to candidates and choose 50, does it specifically send out a personalized message?
Absolutely. So I'll maybe go in and just show that I went through it really fast. So let's just take these 50 and turn that into a campaign. We're going to assign a campaign. It's these 4 steps. So what you see here is it personalized it to the person, and when we have it linked into the job description as part of campaign, it'll have job description. It personalizes the message. What we found is you can customize, because you'll know your industry and the type of profile you're looking for. People love customizing the templates. You can also enhance it with AI and ask AI to just keep enhancing the profile and make it a more robust message, but it's always a personalized message. So those 50 don't just get a, hi, I'm looking for you. It's a specific, hi, Jamie. And it kind of continues that thing. So these underlined areas are basically pulling from the candidate's first name. You got the search role and title. You got the user company, this in case I'm in the demo org. So this would be an opportunity at, whoever. These are the areas where if you're recruiting on behalf of, you can just put those different companies directly in and kind of make it more personalized about that company. As we know, it's much easier to get a response when you're making people do that. The other piece that I called out is right now this is being sent from marketing because it's our demo account. You can change this across others that you've entered in, and you can make these emails come from hiring managers or others, even though you'll get them in this inbox. It's the 2 line is going to come from these other areas. So it allows even a deeper level of personalization because they're getting an outreach. So the other thing we've seen this in staffing areas is if you have sourcing teams that are working on behalf of recruiters, they can pop the recruiter name in and they can just crank out messages and drive that through on behalf of others.
Okay, very nice. Let's see, one more. With regards to poaching, depending on the information you have on the candidate, will it go to their work email?
You'll see what email, like in some cases we'll have multiple emails, multiple phone numbers. And so you get to direct which email you want that to go to. So if they in the public setting, if they've put their work address, let's say on GitHub, and that's where we got the source of it, then it's going to go to that. But we don't grab work emails that are private from anywhere. it would have to be attributed to them publicly.
Fantastic. Some good questions. Those are all the questions that came in from the audience. So John, if you have nothing else, then we can conclude this webinar.
Yeah, so maybe let's talk about just real quick as we wrap, and if any other questions come in as we're wrapping up. So one of the things that we did was obviously a quick demo. We have this, what I tried to describe in the demo, and hopefully you got the gist of, is that the real thing that we've got is this kind of unique multi-channel sourcing that is extremely unique in the sense of what data we're able to have procured and have stitched together. I can just go out on a limb and say there's nobody out there with the data set that we have that you'd be sourcing against. We have different functionalities: talent management, analytics, market intelligence, things like that. But really what we've done is we've created a really high level of BI 3D data, and then we've layered in AI and insights on top of it. That's the easiest way to think about this, is to say we've created a drastically better search utility, but it's basically off of really good data. So those are the kind of areas that we've focused on. As next steps, we can set up and do demos for others and do more customized demos, get into that. We can, and we'll send out a recap after the webinar with a way to sign up or set up time with someone to get a full demo. And maybe there's going to be some nuances that you want to see as part of that. I think I see one more question in there.
Yeah, it's the question is around pricing, which I think kind of ties nicely to, as you were kind of wrapping up, John. So if you want to kind of address that, and then we'll keep an eye on any others that come in.
Yeah, so the pricing is going to be kind of a couple different unique ways that it gets configured. One, based on your size. There's a couple different ways, but there's ways to buy it like per seat, per license, if you will. It depends on if you want integrations, CRM capability. Like, not everybody's going to need all of this capability, so we've created it to be elastic to meet people kind of where they're at. But it really depends on number of recruiters and other factors, like environment you're integrating with and things like that. But we'd love to kind of sit down with anybody during the demo process, find out kind of the environment you're working in and what problems you're trying to solve, and then we can customize kind of a pricing in that way.
Makes sense. Perfect.
I don't see any other questions that came in. So we will go ahead and conclude this webinar. Thank you, everybody, for your time. And we will be following up. Like I said, a post-event email, you'll get the recording, and Advance Partners will be following up with another email as well, if you want to get in touch directly with John and his team. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.